Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Starseeds and Lightworkers podcast here on Quantum Portals. And tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Jeff Selver. And if you were here from the early days, you probably remember him. We did a couple of interviews, one about his book, and he came on the show, did his talked about his book, and he also talked about his experiences with Hindu religion, and so that was really amazing. And we also did an interview, I remember about a couple of months later, talking about some of the stuff that was going on with all the drones being seen over. I think what was that? Was that I
The
can't.
New Jersey
New
drone
Jersey,
sightings. Yeah.
yeah, the New
Yeah,
Jersey
that's
drone,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and it was so timely, at the
Yeah.
time, and we talked about it, and it was a great video. So if you're new to the new to the show, you can go back into our archives and check out his interviews. He is an amazing speaker, and his story is very compelling. And he came again, like I said, at the early days, Mr. Selver, and we talked about his book. And his book was very compelling, as we'll talk about tonight. And his experience was very, in some ways, unusual, but still within the realm of people who are experiencers. And I remember at the time when I talked with him, I remember thinking to myself, this is much more unique. And it doesn't mean that other people's experiences are not relevant, but I find that his experience is particular because there is, whoops, flies, because there is a future aspect to this in a way that I find that other experiencers have not really talked about before. Now we have Chris Bledsoe who talks about certain things about the future and all that, but I find that Jeff's experience very particular because we all know about hybrids. We all know about the idea of different aliens walking among us and all that, and that's fine. But this is taking it to the next level where it's going to be an integration of different beings, of alien beings and humans. And this is not some invasion or any of that kind of garbage that you see in Hollywood, but this is really to our benefit and to their benefit as well. And I feel that in the time that we spoke with him, 'cause I think we spoke together in like fall of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was,
Sounds close to right.
yeah,
Yeah,
around
yeah,
that time.
probably
So it
that.
definitely wasn't
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
And we spoke, and it was, like I said, it was very compelling and timely. But now more than ever, with everything that has been happening with the UFOs, information being put out by the American government, and also with Steven Spielberg's movie Disclosure Day, it really puts Jeff's experience really right front and center. And this is the reason why I invited him back to the show, because I felt that in addition to his own experience, it's preparing us literally for what's going to be coming. And while we've had other different people have come on the show, and everybody, especially if you're watching the show, you know of other experiences and everything. But I feel that tonight's presentation is really going to be much more important for where we're at this point in time, and also what the trajectory is for humanity. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeff Selver. Hi, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm good, Crystal. Thanks for having me back. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I know that I know you and everything, but for new people that haven't been here before, for new people that are joining us tonight, can you give us a little bit of background of who you are as an individual, and then later on we'll go into your experiences, like starting in that sense. But
Sure, yeah. So, sure, my name is Jeff Selver, and who I am as an individual. Um, so I got my, I guess, I rely on the kind of the career. So, yeah, I was a banker for a while there. Got my MBA is the whole point, but did my undergrad in psychology in Toronto, York University, and then did my MBA UNBC in Northern British Columbia. And yeah, and then from there got into finance, and I was really attracted to the business world, actually, to tell you the truth. Kind of opposite from all this, but largely the economy is fascinating to me. I grew up as a punk rocker, so I was actually against the system, and then I loved learning actually about the system. It was a kind of an interesting take twist on the take, and I really enjoyed learning about what makes our own system move, and allowed me to understand humanity, I think, and our world that we live in with a lot better educated ease. And so yeah, I went from, but I bounced around because I wasn't really that happy with the whole financial thing, and I went into software and that kind of stuff and sales. And I won't say where I'm in now. I'm in logistics now, but I won't say the company. And yeah, that's it. And then by 20, I had a whole series of events happen as a kid that were alien contact without my knowing. Sorry, not a kid, but as a teenager. And then once, so 2019 was when the memories came out. And that was July 1st, 2019, when I discovered a screen memory, and that was leading me to the location of a contact event I didn't know I had. And once I kind of was there, it was the first time a I was being prodded in my consciousness about having interacted with these entities. So
It's really interesting. And so I guess we can go into the book. I guess we can,
sure,
if you want to start doing your presentation or,
sure, let's do it.
yeah, sure. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to show people the book beforehand. So it's called The Rising, and it's available on Amazon. And as you can see, it says The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. And if ever we needed an enlightened city, it's now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, really check that out, everybody. You can buy it on Amazon, like I said. And this is what we're going to be discussing pretty much tonight. So, take it away.
Sure. So shall I share screen? Is
Yeah,
that
go
where?
ahead.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, share
You
sound.
when did your book get published, by the way, just so that people know?
When did the book 20 I have the book right here actually. I think it's 2022. Funny, I had to look at this 2 days ago. 2023.
Okay,
Yeah,
2023.
I did a first edition 2021 and the second edition 2023. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so if you want to do full screen and then we can, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll let you take it away.
Great. Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Crystal. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, my name is Jeff Selver. The name of my book, as Crystal gratefully said, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. It's also available on my website, www.jeffselver.com. I do have a lot of research on my website as well, too. I'm still understanding what happened to me. And actually really appreciate your words in the beginning there, Crystal. What happened to me was unique, and it's funny. It's interesting how it doesn't fall outside of the realm of the experiencers,
Yeah.
or the kind of the dialogue of what contact can look like, but it still has its own unique thing going on here. So I'm still discovering and still learning about the different things that occurred to me with the entities, and I do a lot of that research and I dump it online, and so everything's available at my website as kind of a central hub,
Yeah,
which is
just before we get started again, if people, is it okay if people have questions, they can put it in the chat? Because I know that we have a lot of people coming tonight, and I think it's going to touch a lot of people. And
sure.
if we can sort of stop from time to time to just answer some questions, if you're good with that.
Sure. Typically, I find that
Okay.
if we got through the presentation,
Sure.
the questions would be answered in
Okay.
the presentation.
Okay.
But like simultaneously, it's your call because it's your
Yeah.
this is your home. This is your home where I am.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll see what people have. I
okay,
know your presentation, so I know that there's certain things that are going to be answered. But if there's
yeah.
something that really stands out, I'd love to be able to ask you.
Please, yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
actually I really appreciate that. Yeah,
Okay,
something
great.
stands out. Ask me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll let you go.
Awesome. Okay, so the whole story centers around a consciousness event that I had. It's described in detail in the book. It happened in 1997, December of 1997, and it's safe to say a force was put upon me, and it altered my inside. I'm getting better at articulating this stuff. I would say a sheet of energy that was golden, a golden white light made up my inner awareness, and I felt God awareness and had these profound alterations occur. I felt the cells of my body have light in them, and of course, I wasn't looking for this experience. So I was actually first I was open to it, and then I started to become terrified because it combined itself with a message to leave my life and abandon my life. So first I resisted that, and then by 1998, 1998, February of 1998, I actually abandoned my life and I traveled. And so from that period, 1998 February to 2000, I traveled for 2.5 years. And I had close encounters with objects when I did. So I had a close encounter with a red orb, and I saw several different objects throughout the sky at different periods. All that's documented in the book. So I didn't know all of that was connected. So when you're just living through it, the entities don't want you to know, and I didn't know. I just knew that something special had happened, and I had to live to it, but I was isolated in the process. And it was all very lonely and very isolating while simultaneously being this kind of spiritual, mission that I was on. So from 2000, October of 2000, I lived in Toronto, and that's where basically you could say I went back to society, and all the anomalous activity stopped. So I ended up with a Vedic guru at the time, and still with him actually to this day. But yeah, that's where it all kind of ended, and I started living a quote unquote normal life, if you can call that normal. 2016 was the beginning of unease of my past, as if sitting there questioning what the hell had happened in that period. Thinking I eventually would get answers, and I never did. And then it all kind of started coming back. 2019, I watched. So, by the way, I was not an aliens and UFO guy. I was pretty grounded. I was having the MBA and having the background in finance. I thought that was going to be my life. And then in 2019, I watched Bob Lazar's documentary on Area 51. I started watching a YouTube channel, Finding UFO, and the anomalous activity I had seen while traveling came back. And that's when all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose in my mind, you could say. And I did not like what was being said, or it was making me extremely uncomfortable. And then so by June 2019 of June, the orbs actually started to communicate in basically in telepathy, and I was uncomfortable talking about that. And now there's research papers, Jack Valet and Eric Davis, 6-layered model of anomalous phenomenon, and they describe that you can get telepathy from objects in the sky. And so that is exactly what was happening with me. And that telepathy, it's all laid out in my book, but the story eventually it zeroes in on a screen memory. And when I go back to the location of that screen memory is the first time I ever feel what alien contact felt like to my conscious mind. And that's all it took. It started a domino effect. It took months of a process that I went through, but so that day was July 1st, 2019. 2020, July 5th was the first time I ever went public and started speaking about it. I didn't really know I actually had a command from the entities to do that. I felt very compelled to share my story, largely because it was so personal that I needed it to not be personal. I needed the isolation from the experience to not feel so isolating anymore. And I had a natural compulsion to share it. And there was a local group here in Vancouver that was very quick to want to understand it. And that's where it all started. What was my story, though, behind the scenes? So my memory was obscured all my life about my alien contact, though there were hints and what I would call markers. I think I've heard another experiencer say the exact same word. They were like markers. So you get this kind of like weird, anyway, the impressions were different almost every time. So that helps with the obscuring. So you don't know that was alien contact, whatever those deep feelings that came out of nowhere that left a weird dream the next day that turned out to be recorded in a journal, something like that. So you ended up turning out to be an alien contact event I wasn't aware of. And then so it hid in my life in these very weird, obscured ways. What turned out to be was I had 5 childhood contact events, the last one being when I was 7 years old. Then from the age of 16 to the age of 20, I had 7 contact events that started in the October of 1993. And then so they were the ones who actually initiated the consciousness event that for me occurred in 1997, and they had created it with the contact I had for the first 7 contact events. When I started to travel, I had 10 contact events in the year 1998. And then another 5 all the way to the year 2000. And when I met my to-be wife and stopped traveling, I had 1 in Toronto that was in the year 2001, and then that was it. they kind of almost like let me live out my life, but they came back periodically. I had one in 2008 when I was living in Toronto, and then I had one right here, taken from my bed in 2016, and another one taken from my bed in 2017, and that capped it off at 26 contact events, not including the 5 childhood contact events. So my entire story is 26 contact events with gray aliens. And yeah, so I unraveled all that and spent a lot of energy. You know, the memories were preserved. It's really hard to explain it. I've done a lot of research on the memory aspect of this. I have essays upon essays on memory, and I have several video series on memory on my YouTube channel. And the memory obscuring of alien contact. I know how a lot of it was done now, so it's like that. So I had to know because it was so personal to me. So let me get into my story. So the premise of my story was that I made an agreement with gray aliens at the age of 16 to discover my soul. I largely interacted with this entity. So this is the entity I label as the elder. When I was interacting with her, I did not call her the elder. She was a telepathic impression, and I would call her the mother, actually. There was a period where I was addressing for her, asking for her, and I was calling her the mother and using her image, and the entity I was dealing with got it. So the first contact event was in Coquitlam, where I grew up at the time, in October of 1993, and I was 16 years old. So Coquitlam is over here. And I was coming home from hanging out with friends, and I was coming home basically at night, bypassing Mundy Park. So I lived over here, and I was coming home through Como Lake Road. And this was the trail I was taking. And I've gone back to a lot of the locations where this occurred because I had to. I just had to understand what the hell had happened to me. And I could not let any of this be a mystery to me. And and I remember this event. Like I remember the night, and oddly enough, right, like remembering the night over 20 years later. But when these events happen to you, and it left a marker, which was a dream about the location. So I'd recalled going all across the soccer field, and I remembered the dream, but then I had no knowledge that I'd actually had a contact event on the actual soccer field. So this is the exact soccer field, and I was walking across. Of course, none of this was here at the time. It's all developed now, but it wasn't developed. And then an alien, that gray alien I'd shown you, fell from the sky. And basically, there's an exchange where I'm frozen and I can't move, and it's addressing me and asking me to come with it. Come with us to our ship. We'll bring you right back, is what it says. And I agree. I agree because I had the childhood contact events, not knowing, like, I didn't really know what this entity was, but it gave me a moment to remember that I'd been on craft as a child. And in that memory, I was not harmed. And so it was kind of like I had a moment of like, oh, and I did actually, it's in the book, I prayed to be abducted by aliens because I'd read Whitley Strieber's Communion. And so I'd read it and I got excited to be abducted by aliens, slapped the book closed and prayed in the sky to be abducted by aliens. And then they answered.
Wow.
And
be careful what you wish for. Oh my
exactly,
God.
yes. You got
That's
it. You
crazy.
got it. It's total. It is crazy. It is. Yeah. And of course I didn't, like, the part of me didn't know it got answered. And a whole other part of me was very aware this was in response to that. Right. So yeah, totally insane. This is the general map of kind of an overview of what I did go through the craft. So I do recall it was like a boomerang. It was basically like a boomerang shaped craft. And this is generally what it looked like on the inside. So there was a hangar, there was a computer area where I went into, I got operated on or had physical things put into me. I went into a dimensional room and then I went to another room, but all that's laid out and that map is there. So basically that alien in this contact event is telling me it knows my future, and it's telling me we want to work with you, and it wants my permission to do it. And it makes sense to me that it wants that because I need to be on side for that to occur. So it's asking for the permission. And I actually eventually agree because it tells me I have their DNA in me, and it considers me one of theirs. So, and it was actually answering things about my life at the time. And also they were already in my life and I didn't know it. So there was kind of a whole bunch of things in my head about it, like, okay. And then it was kind of fascinating. Did I really know what I was getting into? No, but it did feel right. And it's hard to explain that in the moment when it's so alien, but it did feel right. And I didn't understand these cubes at the time, but they were future outlines of events that they wanted to work with me on. And I didn't really know what that meant, but they explain it in all the details in the book. But they do explain that detail. So
Um,
they told me at that time that they were going to help me discover my soul. And I didn't know what that meant, and but because I felt like I was related to them or bonded to them, that I was kind of putting myself in their hands and doing it willingly. And that's so they operate on me in a medical room, and then after that's done, they take me to this dimensional room. And the premise being is that they were going to help me discover my soul that night, and then they were going to store it all away, store the awareness away, you could say. And of course, I had no comprehension about what was going on. I just knew that this was the right thing to do. So we end up in this um, extremely uh, large, but dimensionally, uh, it was too large for the space. It did feel like football field lengths going off in all directions, including down. So it was as if I was walking on air, but almost like the floor was glass. And I was actually affected already by the environment. It was having an effect on me, and I was hyperventilating. And I'm actually kind of convinced because there was no air in the room, and my consciousness or something was driving my body. And then it says what is about to happen is going to be beyond your comprehension, and they move back, and we all start levitating, and we all collapse and turn into orbs. Yes, and so my identity got erased. The kid Jeff Selver got erased, and it sounds bonkers, but it happened, and it was basically a bliss rush is the only word I have. And then there was this kind of like unity with the computer, unity with the craft, and then unity with them. And instantaneously, they are no longer aliens. I actually could feel I was the same thing as this alien was, and there was no fear. All fear was erased. I was in a bliss state, altered. The identity is gone, and I am no longer anything to do with what I once was, and I'm definitely now one of theirs. We end up there's some things that occur here that really they end up playing actually in some degrees, but a lot of weird dimensional things occurred in this room. And then eventually this gray alien who was the elder turns herself into a portal, and I end up floating in. And what starts is the only thing I can call is the afterlife vision. So they show me the death of my last life, my past life moving up, crossing into a realm we would call the afterlife, and transforming into what we can only call the oversoul, the higher self, the causal body, the Paramatma in Vedic. That's it. We don't even have proper wording for this energy that we all are. So, and I witness, they show it to me. So I am as the, you could say the 16-year-old orb, watching the death of his last life, and I have a full transformation about what's going on, and it's a lived experience. This isn't just fake little imagery. It's lived. I can feel I can feel my past life. All of a sudden, I'm having awareness that I've been living past lives, and all of a sudden, I'm having awareness that that energy is me that's dead. It died, and I'm feeling sad for it because its death was horrible. Simultaneously, I am overwhelmed by the connection and the realization. And so that energy goes up and transforms into this, which I would call the oversoul. This is a kind of a personification of it.
Can I
And when
ask
it transforms into this other dimension, this afterlife realm, a gray alien approaches it. So the connection being made, they are in that realm. And fundamentally, what's being shown to me is that an agreement was made in this realm. And that's why I was interacting with these gray aliens as a 16-year-old. So they were kind of answering the whole thing. And it was so the afterlife vision is the death of my last life, showing me sequences in the afterlife, and then being spewed out at almost when my, seeing the me being put into my mom's womb. And then I become reformed in the white room, and I'm altered. I'm altered with the awareness of because I had a shared experience with this thing. I now have like taken on this thing's energy, which is the oversoul energy. So I'm like an embodied oversoul at the age of 16, stored away in this awareness of this kid. Now, when it's all done, they bring me back to the field, but I now have a lot of understanding about how the hell they did this. And it's largely because the contact event happened outside time. And consciousness is a very interesting thing. So it's not too unsimilar to a past life, actually. You're living other lives. Your oversoul is like a completed circle, and it's creating offshoots. And it can create offshoots presently, and it can create offshoots. There's actually cases of gurus bilocating, right? And I've witnessed it myself. So that is an oversoul taking and splitting off its awareness, right? And so it's like a trick that the aliens almost know. Stopping time, they can enlighten or give someone their awareness of their oversoul or the afterlife, and then they can store that away so the actual guy living with his physical tissue brain in real time doesn't know he saw the afterlife. It's pretty nuts. And so I've kind of mapped all this stuff out now, all these years later. I have a whole series about it on my channel, but I know how they've largely done a lot of this because I had to understand it because it was so personal to me. They come back. So they left me alone for a year and a half. There's a brief contact event and contact event number 2, and I become altered when I do. And then again, they seal it up. So every time I'm running into them, I'm altered from this white room that's happened. It's impacting now all the contact events following it. So it really did transform me. Contact event number 3 was when they came back. That was Walnut Grove, October of 1996, and I was 19 years old. I was on my way home from my girlfriend's house. So, and this was the 3rd time I'd seen them after that, the 2nd time I'd seen them after the White Room, the afterlife contact event. And I was driving home, and I become the quote unquote me that knows them. I get altered into the guy who is the aware of the previous contact events. So there is a kind of a realm that consciousness moves into, and it has the memory stored of the previous contact events. So it's totally insane. And I was on this road again. I've gone back to a lot of these locations, and on that road, I actually 2 tall gray aliens kind of flagged me. When I became the me that knows them, 2 tall gray aliens were actually on the road, and they said stop, and then they got me and they walked me into the forest, and we got beamed into some type of craft. And so again, they started storing a lot of information into me. Now, at the time, I had no knowledge about what was happening to me. And I didn't really, I was compliant because, if I just did what they wanted, they would give me a lot of information. They'd give me things. And though I didn't really know how to process it, and there was no space for processing either. That's actually really fascinating. You're just this kind of open vessel, and then they're dumping information into you. And at the time, I didn't even know how to compute it. Yet she's telling me things about herself and things about them. And it won't be till years later when the memories all come out that it all starts making sense. They kind of understood what they were doing. So they were giving me information that I could relate to the public is what they were doing. So she explains, I see Tiny in this room here. I get put into this room here, and I'm with the elder. And I see these gray aliens in these tubes. And they're like tiny gray aliens, as if they're basically they're youngins is what they are. Young gray aliens. And she says to me, this is how our kind is made, she said, raising her hand to show the containers. She emanated motherly love for these forms. For her, these were babies. And she said, we are genetic manipulators, and the bodies in these tubes will have specific genetic purposes for the role each will play in our world. We also have made the human bodies for your earth, for your souls to live in. And we did this a long time ago in an ancient era. She said with a specific telepathic impression of tens of thousands of years ago. I was so absorbed with being quote unquote one of theirs that I was unfazed by her comments about humanity. Is what I mean. I'm kind of in this open state. I'm fully altered. I was not the if you knew me at 19 years old and then saw this guy, it would not appear to be the same guy. The kid who's aware of the contact. I'm completely transformed in their presence. Um, we make life. So she keeps on. She keeps explaining. We make life. This is what we do. And we understand the integration of spirit with biology. We are engineers for ways of living for souls. We understand how biology manifests specific spiritual perceptions so souls can go into those bodies when they seek those type of experiences. We are the highest type of life engineers. And then she explains our bodies, so she's talking about her in her gray alien form. Our bodies are like your invertebrates, and we plant our seeds into human mothers' wombs to make the fetuses grow to be like us. We do this to bring humanity to a galactic level so humans can be part of a galactic society. So it's like that, where they're giving, and I'm not absorbing that as that 19-year-old saying, "Oh, great, okay, now they're part of a galactic society, and we'll all do that." I can't even process what's being said to me. It's all through telepathy, and they're kind of like these impressions that get stored in you that you'll be able to express at a later time. It's almost like they know that. And that's what that kind of is at the moment. I'm not really understanding it when I'm hearing these things, and only now can I process and rethink that language through. They came back only a couple months later, contact event number 4, and it was Long Beach out in Tofino. It was Easter long weekend. I was 19 years old. I was camping with friends, and this was the campsite, and I was walking. I was smoking pot at the time, and they appeared to not like it, and it could damage our agreement. So they needed to interject during this camping trip. And I went for a walk on my own in the early morning, and they took me. And it was along this pathway here. And again, I've gone back to this location. I literally went out with me and my partner, me and my spouse, and we went to Tofino, and I went here, and I went and took pictures and really felt out this whole location. I could feel it occurred here, and it took me time and energy to figure it all out, but I kind of like was remembering these details, and it was right here. And what they did is, again, I'm certain the contact event was outside time, so the 19-year-old doesn't know what happened to him. And they take me, and basically the elder scolds me for smoking. She doesn't really call it. She doesn't call it weed or anything like that, but they don't like me doing it is basically what it is. And yet you have the potential to ruin our agreement is basically. So they didn't like the idea that this weed had the potential to damage things in me, and damage our potential for the consciousness event that was going to happen to me. They put me on a device that had me look at my thoughts. And so this was a hologram of my thoughts. And these here were basically my thoughts. And I could feel they were thoughts that the 19-year-old had in the morning. And their thoughts about conforming and hanging out with my friends and, being a dude, because I was a dude. I was a punk rocker at the time. And she basically shows me the motivation for doing this, for smoking weed, and kind of not just smoking weed, sorry, the motivation for not listening to my own equilibrium about when I should or shouldn't be doing these things. As a teenager, right? You're kind of like you're bending your own equilibrium because you're trying to conform, and then you might overdo it. You might smoke too much weed or drink too much or something. So they were showing me. So these were like, they call it the ocean of the mind. So you have your surface thoughts, which are your thoughts you would have passively in the moment, as in presently. You have medium level thoughts, which would be like, your subconscious. And then you have formative thoughts. And the ocean of the mind device was showing me all these thoughts are here now. So you might have a thought like, oh, I'm going to go, and after the presentation, I'm going to go grab a bite to eat. But you have a subconscious thought that's also sitting there at the exact same time. And the subconscious might be, you're still angry about a fight you got into with your coworker. And then underneath, you still have a formative thought about how you like to treat, that fight. So you have these like kind of layered thinking that's sitting in the consciousness, your mind presently. All the thoughts are active. And this is what it was showing me. And she was showing me the reason I actually was bending my will to smoke pot with my friends is because there was a childhood moment with my mom where my mom had depression, and she basically there was a sense of neglect for like, I guess, a month or two. I don't even really know, but I do know what this was hinting on. It was hinting on when I was a child, probably 1 or 2 years old, and my mom had depression, and there was a bit of neglect there. And then that neglect stayed with me as a formative moment, and then it impacts why I'm bending over with my friends. So it's totally insane. And they were showing this all to me because it helps me in that moment, right? It helps me with our agreement. So that's the type of stuff they were doing with me to build me up for this consciousness event. Contact event number 5, Anmore, May 1997. I was 19 years old. I was on a hike alone by myself, off in Belcarra. So this is Anmore here. Coquitlam is where I grew up. That's the first contact event, Mundy Park, and this here is Anmore, the hiking trail I was on, and it was coming up here into the power lines. That's it there, and I went back to the location, and boy, could I feel it happened. And yeah, I was taken directly from the hiking trail as it crossed over the power lines. In the contact event, they do this energy work on me, and they're prepping me for that oversoul body. The white room experience is now being deposited into my physical tissue body in time. So most of the contact events were outside time at this point, and now they're in time, and there is missing time. So there is moments where I'm having like gaps, but I have a program in me from them to not look at those gaps. So I recall the gaps, but I don't know that they're mysterious as I grew up. So but what they had done is they had deposited this other me they had made from the white room now. That was stored in timelessness, was being put into me in time. And the result was, from that point onwards, I won't go into this, it's too much detail, but from that point onwards, I end up having kind of an expansion of psychic abilities. I start having premonitions. I start knowing I'm going to meet a friend that day. And I start having dreams that are prophetic, and it starts off like that. So the summer of 1997 was the beginning of this kind of consciousness expansion that they seem to be aware of and be able to manage. Too much detail here, but contact event number 6, I ran into it was outside time, and my friend and I were frozen, and they took me and they put me into a craft, and they had done some work on me. And then the last contact event before the consciousness event, 1997, and it's in this that I see something again very significant. For all these years later, is still highly significant. So I come into the craft, I get beamed inside, coming home from a bar or something like that when I was 20 years old. And I become the me that knows I'm driving in. And then I pull over and I can feel the craft and I get beamed inside of it. And this is generally what the craft looked like. It was a single room. And the elder is the one who's there. And the elder tells me, goodbye, Jeff. We'll see you soon after the event happens. So after your time to rise, which is why my book is called The Rising, because the consciousness event was they said, your time to rise. And so she shows me, lets me handle actually this object. It looked like this. Actually, it looked like this. It had rings going up it, but it was solid in the sense that it had this kind of shape to it, and it had this gem at the top. And when I looked at the gem shimmered at me, communicating a high command over the Federation that was a sentient, organic computer intelligence. So this idea that there's some type of consciousness computer actually is kind of the better way I would frame this now. But it did have a sense of organic, like it was nature. It was like, it had a sense of nature in it. And so it's not AI. This is not AI. And I actually have more understanding about these things now. But that's generally how it got impressioned into me at the time. The consciousness event happens. I leave my life, and then I'm traveling, and it was 1998, and I start traveling, and I have my first close encounter with a red orb 6 weeks into traveling when I go to Hornby Island, and stuff like this had happened to me at a full contact event without my knowing. Though I knew something had happened, that's all I could know. I didn't have a knowledge that I had alien contact. I'd gone into spaceships and stuff. I did that. It just, you can't even conceive of it at that point. So it's not even, I had no idea. And what it turned out was that I'd driven a craft. They had like rewarded me, quote unquote, for the consciousness event that had taken place. So they had a whole kind of series of things in their head about it all. And one of them was that, yeah, they were rewarding me. So there was a humanoid alien who was with me, and he kind of guided me how to do it. And I put my hand on this pad, and I flew the craft out in outer space, in the Earth's orbit, to Venus. And this humanoid was there, basically helping me, or helping me, teaching me, kind of showing me how to do it. And yeah, and I basically was able to do it with thought. So you move the object with thought, and the craft with thought, and yeah, pretty wild stuff. And we fly into Venus, and no BS. There was a city there, and then we fly in to the city, and he shows me where he lives. I see where the gray alien, the elder, lives, and yeah, and that basically it. It's like a kind of a brief visit. And I myself was so blown away with this contact event that I have kind of researched a lot of the kind of Venus or Venusian contact events, like George Adamski and Stranger at the Pentagon. And yeah, it's odd. It kind of all matches up, and like I'm like it doesn't matter that how bizarre this is to anyone or to hear about it. I'm fully convinced I did go to Venus, even though it was like a brief thing. And I did go with Venusians who were humanoid like aliens. What I'm convinced of is it's higher vibrational. So it literally is a higher dimensional city existing on Venus's surface. So you would go there and you would be able to be outside of the environment, actually. So the pressures and the temperature of Venus aren't affecting this city because it's existing on a higher dimension. So it's physically there while simultaneously it's not affected by the environment. So things like that happened. And but the contact events just kept on going on throughout my travels. I was in northern Saskatchewan. So now I think I just lost. I was lost as a 20-year-old, not knowing what was going on with me. Why was I doing this? So I took every advantage to make it fun. And but everything was like a challenge, like a deep spiritual challenge about what was happening. So I decided to travel across Canada, but I was going to do it going north. So being up in the northern areas of Canada to isolate myself, to kind of feel closer to nature, if you will. And then I had a contact event there too. So I was on a road like this, kind of like a logging road, like a large, gravel road. And it's here that they start talking to me about their plans. So look at my contact, right? This is what it's been. It was all about this development and this kind of soul stuff. By the way, all that consciousness stuff wasn't just for pretty fun woo. So now I'm all wooey and I'm a cool guy who had woo events. They start taking my biology, because what had happened is this consciousness thing altered my DNA. And so now I'm valuable to them, and they start taking my biology. So it's a kind of a trade-off. So what comes off as a spiritual thing, which is to me still personally, it was a spiritual event, but does have a trade-off for them. So they start taking my biology. So as of the first contact event, as soon as the biological event, as soon as the consciousness event happened, the 8th, 9th, and now the 10th were all biological, or at least have biology in them amongst them still talking to me about what they're doing. So it's here that I see hybrids. And they just call them the new humans. They don't call them hybrids. They don't say it like that. But it's obvious these are merging. These are humans who have, or gray aliens who have merged human DNA. So they have, like, it's the structure, it's the body structure, it's the arms and the hands, and it's the whole frame of a human with the gray alien head. And not big either, not large craniums. I would say a cranium the size of mine, if not a little bit larger, but not too large, but black eyes. So very interesting. And it's here that I see a planet hologram. And this is one of the most telling things. I think there's something very, these are the things that feel very real. So I was terrified, actually. This guy. I call him the twin. So it wasn't the elder. This is a different gray alien. And he's basically saying, yeah, we're making the new human. And I was scared actually at that point. And he, I guess, saw that fear, and he shows me a planet hologram. So the planet Earth comes up, and I can feel from this hologram the Earth's instability. I can feel it's not just like climate change. It's like everything. The Earth was being eaten actually. And there was like almost like bites, like as if you would take a bite out of an apple, like the dirt was eroding off, dirt. And as it happened, the Earth was shaking. And the sense of the atmosphere and the water and the ocean. So the total biosphere was weakening. And then it all starts going up in flames from the South Pole to the top. And the whole thing just goes boom and goes up in flames. And then as if it gets recreated. And it's a new vibration. It's a new feel. And in the center of North America is a massive city, a massive glistening city. Now, I need to make it clear too. This hologram felt as if I was literally looking from outer space. So even though I was physically on that craft, the hologram was very realistic. It wasn't a cartoon image. Though I would actually say that the whole, the emphasis stuff, the earth shaking and the land being eaten and then going up in flames, sure had a maybe kind of cartoonish element to it. But it did feel like I was looking at Earth from space. And so it had a very realistic component to it. And the city itself was glistening. So it had a real depth. Like I had this kind of depth to it. And of course, a consciousness holograms, they all impart all this information. And I could feel these entities were highly concerned for nature. And they were feeling like they finally saved nature. So when this whole thing gets redeveloped and there's this new feel to the Earth, the feeling here is the gray mind would dominate. But it's not, we don't have the proper words. It's better framed stewardship. It's like planetary takeover for proper stewardship. It's kind of like that. It's not, humans we are too capitalistic in our mind, and we're too war in our mind that we believe that type of dominance would be controlled and blah 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 blah. And no, humans don't even know what this is yet. And it's much more like steward. It's like greenhouse. It's like proper. The right people now have come to take care of the greenhouse and are going to make the plants grow way better than you ever could. It's like that because they have the proper technology to make those plants grow better. So it's kind of like that. This is very different. And the city was in the center of the earth, and then the rest of the nature around the city was left to grow wild. So it was real strong impressions about what I was looking at. And there was, fascinatingly enough, a city in Southern California. And I still, I've talked about this in different places, what all that could mean. But so this is the beginning of them relaying this kind of information that would become the basis of the book, the plan to build the Enlightened City on Earth, right? So that's all they give me here. They don't give me any other information, and eventually it just gets built off of it. So I do say, so what happens now? Because they were going to make a new human, and this is kind of the premise of it, that this had something to do with the new human. So I said, what happens now? And he said, we're building the population. So throughout the traveling, I interacted with several different crafts that were consistent. So I saw like crafts more than once, very interesting. I was able to draw them out years later. Crafts like that. And this is the inside of that. This was the 12th contact event. So again, just like a lot of detail. I'll go into different spaces. A lot of it's biological related, but it's fascinating that I go into these spaces. I'll skip through here. This is where, okay, so I end up in my 21st contact event. Traveling is now done. So I've had, now we're 21 contact events in, and I meet who calls him, he doesn't call himself anything, but he basically claims he's the one who designed all of this. So everything that happened to me from that white room and seeing the afterlife, and then having all that development and being close to the elder and the gray alien and everything that happened, which at the time for me was labeled as having to do with these gray aliens. He's like, actually, it's mine. So it's basically a program leader, and that the gray aliens had executed his desire. So, and I call this thing kind of the archetype of the mantid. I know it doesn't look like a mantid. It had for me kind of a aardvark look to it. It was a weird hybrid of like an aardvark, a dinosaur, a horse, and it had these big, large yellow eyes, cat-like eyes on the side, and he wore a gown. So it was a crazy creature, and it was very different in power. And I don't learn too much else about him except for that he is the I call it the leader. So it's the leader of the program, and he definitely was in charge of the entire thing. So I am learning like years in that everything I've been part of was in fact something to do with him, and he was in charge of it all. It's actually fascinating still what happens here. So that 21st contact event, I get to ask questions. So at different periods, they give me not the freedom, but I get to formulate and ask questions and talk with them. And at this time, the elder sits down with me, sits down and talks. Not, of course, not with her mouth, but she's colloquially addressing my questions. It's very interesting. And so at one point, I learned that they were able to actually it was the leader. So when he's talking about himself and his role, he's saying, "We've taken everything from you." So he's saying everything that happened, everything you went through is a part of us now. So, we're grateful for that. And he's saying, your thoughts and your feelings, all your loves, all your hatreds, everything, of course they took biology, but that's all I had in my head. And so here he is saying we took more than that. We took your feelings and your thoughts. So I was with the elder and I'm like, so what did that mean? He meant he took our feelings and thoughts. And she's like, let me show you. So she goes over to we're here. So I'm in that chair. She's in this chair. That's a desk, literally like humans have a desk and a chairs. There was a bookshelf, literally a bookshelf. Yes. And the books, I was able to pull one out and it had holograms in it. Like their world is not too unseparate, too undifferent from ours. And so I was in this chair, the elder's here, and she said, let me show you. She walks over to a computer console and there's my thoughts on a computer. So they were clearly exactly like I'd seen them in the fourth contact event back in 1997, except now they're all lined up. The ocean of the mind, right? So I saw them floating in the ocean of the mind. Here they are all lined up, like they're kind of, being loaded into a database. And these are my thoughts, and I'm able to look at them. And these are the thoughts I'm having at that time. So I'm insecure. I'm living in Toronto. And I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, what's going on? So she's like telling me how invasive everything is, right? And she's very open and transparent about it all. And she basically explains there's a device inside your head and there's a bit of genetics, your DNA. We're able to tune into your DNA. And then you have a device that's in you that's kind of like a satellite dish for us that we're able to pick all this up with. But she said, that's the best I can explain it. It's with technology you don't understand. So they were very transparent. It's very fascinating stuff. Yeah. How did you do this? How did you have my thoughts? It's very fascinating. Okay, that was it, right? They left me alone. That was 20, I forget, I'm 23 at that time, I think. And that's it. They don't talk to me or I don't run into them ever again until 7 years later, where I have my 24th contact event. And that's when I learn that a planet event is involved with their coming. So they basically tell me there's going to be some type of internal pole adjustment. I've never said a pole flip. I'm not clear that that's what this is. I think I have more knowledge about it now. And it's definitely something internal has to snap or has to shift internal to our planet. And I've once heard an alien say, in like a 1950s contact event for an Italian veteran who ran into an alien walking home from his car being broken down. And the alien told him he can't stay on Earth because your planet has an instability to it. I think something like that. I think there's an instability in the planet, and for it needs to occur for the dimensional shift, for some type of alteration to our dimension, to our planet and the electromagnetic field. And then once that occurs, the seeds get planted or the hybrids get put down. And so I'm told that in my 24th contact event. And that's in 2008. 2016, so 8 years later, all this time is passing. They're letting me be adult and do my normal life. They come back. So it's 25th contact event. And this is where she tells me your memories are now open and we want you to write it out into a book and tell the world we're coming. So at the end of my story, I'm told by the elder to turn my contact events into a book. And in this book to tell the world that they are coming and that there will be a new city. Implying the contact events were given to me in a way in which they knew would later be told to the public. So that's the premise of it. That's the premise of my story. So there's a bunch of different things I could keep talking about here. We can open it up a bit more now, Crystal. But I do actually I will address
Sure.
some of the things that I kind of said, like, can you talk a bit about the government side of this and then Disclosure Day? And I did have some kind of things I wanted to say about these things.
Absolutely.
So I'm not convinced the government will ever tell us fully. I'm not convinced of it. I'm convinced they'll tell us, yeah, aliens are here and all that stuff. I'm convinced that's what they'll tell us. And there might be history that we have to reorganize, a new history for the human race, that they were here the entire time and that they've influenced us the entire time. But there's a lot of micro details that I cannot foresee them I don't even know the government understands it. That's the problem. We're dealing with things that are scales higher than you or I expect. And I know what some of those things are. And having 25 years of Vedic meditation helps that. And we're dealing with things like the bending of space-time and then how consciousness interacts with that. And some places you can't even get into until you're able to be, your consciousness has been developed in your brain enough to enter. And so, because time bending affects the human in very different ways, much more than people are willing to understand yet. And maybe the government has some of that information. I don't know, but I just can't understand how they're going to release this stuff to the public fully. But I think that there's no choice. So they have to do something. So they're definitely releasing information, and this is a guarantee for me. I've always believed in the 2017, the 2027, as John Ramirez said, it's a 10-year soft disclosure program. I've always believed that. I've said that publicly for years now. I've agreed with that because I always known, like I saw in the 10th contact event, the planet was at stake. So there's a rush. There's 100% rush to get the public on side to know, at least just know that these guys are here. What's the rest? I don't know. And I'm actually nervous for the government to try and still be holding that information. I was not a conspiracy theorist before any of this stuff. And even when I had my memories and I was talking publicly, I still wasn't really a conspiracy theorist. Now I'm believing that they're trying to hoard the information from the rest of the population because they know exactly what's happening, and they're trying to get ahead of it, one step on top of it. And I believe that. I 100% believe that they're trying to do that. But the aliens' pressure is to tell the whole entire population, so they're doing that also. So they're trying to balance both things of how can we hoard information while simultaneously tell enough that we can appease them. So that's what I'm convinced is going on here. And, there's like dumb things that are already occurring, right? Like really stupid. We have whistleblowers. We've had Congress literally make a committee around the whistleblowers. And yet simultaneously you have government releasing videos and they act like they don't know what these things are. Yeah. So you get this weird double picture of one that tells you they know exactly what's going on and the other that's saying we don't know what's going on. And yet you don't have a media, you don't have anybody credible, you don't have anybody saying, hey, like yelling louder about that kind of discrepancy, because I think that the government is purposely milking the time and wasting the time to draw out that disclosure. Yeah. Because I think the population needs to know about what I'm convinced is a planet event coming. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm convinced something along those lines is happening, and they're keeping it for themselves. Yeah. And so that's that. That's the government part to this. Disclosure Day was awesome. So for as experiencers, it was I have a bit of the longer you're in this, the more certain people talk to me and talk to anybody, right? You're in this and you get wind of this and that because the right people are they know you're a contactee, so they're telling you this information. And Steven Spielberg knows more than he's letting on.
Oh, of course.
And yeah. But it was amazing. It was almost hidden the way it talked to experiencers directly. And every experiencer I knew, that I knew, all cried during it, and I cried during it too. And the house scene is definitely, the house scene was memories of me approaching my memories. So I had my own memories, and I bawled because Steven Spielberg captured the feeling of approaching my own memories and how hard that was for me, and the way the guy yelled, "Don't do it! Don't follow that!" and like it was just like that was me. And anyway, I bawled during it.
Yeah.
But there's a couple lines in there that I think are the most important lines that humans are going to need in this entire goddamn process that we're about to be exposed to. And they were like underrated comments that people didn't seem to pick up on. Don't be afraid of what you don't understand. We are going to be up against time bending, space bending, oversouls, the afterlife, past life awareness, entities who are operating and using and utilizing these spaces and dimensions, other realms, and never mind mastery of the body, mastery of paranormal activity. We are out of our realm so much. You are going to have to be okay with not being on top of it all. You are going to have, and human, I don't even think a human physical tissue brain can contain what this stuff is. And so we are out of our league. We are, as you know, Lou Elizondo and David Grush, they've already done a good job of saying, we are not the A-type, we're not the apex predator here. And boy, are we out of our leagues. And it is benevolent. And the problem is that what is benevolence? Right? We kind of have this assumption it means they want to care and take care of you and make sure you feel good. And no, evolution is benevolence, right? So what might be hard for you might be them saying, you're going to learn, you have to learn some things here. But their intention is on kind of a higher level about what we do and how we evolve. So you might have a kind of a weird approach about what we think is right and wrong, and a lot of that might be up for grabs as we're dealing with evolution, strictly evolution, and so it is benevolent is the point. And so I think humans, I think a lot of humans are going to be afraid of what they don't understand, and I think that's absolutely why there was no disclosure, and that's. We have to embed that one in us, is do not be afraid, because your first tendency is to be afraid. Even in the UFO field, it's my channel has still got, oh, they're demons, they're the jinn, it's this, it's that. Oh, how can you trust them? Oh, they did that, they did this, they're clearly lying to you, da da da. Like it's just, that's it. You're articulating exactly what Steven Spielberg is trying to address and what we need to address, the human tendency to be afraid of what you don't understand. So that was number one. Number two is listen. I loved
exactly
listen.
Right there.
I loved listen. I loved it. And let me
the
add
best line
that.
in the film, honestly.
It is
the best line in the film.
It's a hidden best line of the film.
Yeah.
So let me tell you. So I was at Contact in the Desert. I go now every year now that I've kind of gotten into it. It's lots of fun. And so I was there last year, and my entities come. So now I consider my entities the same thing as everybody else's entities. I do. I think it's these orbs and these objects, and I think it's kind of one thing, but it does individuate. And so it was my individuated elder that was there, and she was there. There was this orb, and it was flashing, and I was able to connect with it and talk, or there was telepathy. And I felt it feel that everybody who was at Contact in the Desert, they were all their children. Now that feeling is very distinct and unique, because it wasn't, all the contactees. It wasn't all the people who had contact who were their children. It was everybody who listens. It's everybody who wants to know, trying to understand this phenomenon, wants to connect with it. Even if they aren't connecting with it, you're hungering to understand it. You want to listen. You're paying attention. You're listening to it. You're trying to figure it out. You're at these conferences. You're paying money. You're going to these talks. You're doing this thing. You're doing that thing. You're listening. It's that. It's and
1,000%.
Yeah. It was such a unique thing. It wasn't that contactees were the children. It was because they were all there out of their own volition to understand it. Was them listening. It was. Yeah, it's the whole process of I'm convinced some things are going to turn upend on our planet, and those who are listening they're going to be there in some way, shape, form, or capacity.
Yeah.
And that's my full belief. And yeah, so that listen was so critical, so important. And yeah, and what also spoke to me too, the last part of this, is the last piece I'll give. Um, the Spielberg actually had the only two experiencers, right? There's only two experiencers in this world, in the science fiction world. There were only two experiencers. But I can't remember the guy's name, but the kind of lead good guy said, we all get imbued. You get imbued with a purpose. And I fully related to that too. And I know my purpose here, I'm imbued with knowledge of the oversoul, right? I saw the oversoul, then the rising was an oversoul experiment. Then I try to embody the oversoul while traveling. Then I have a guru who's all about the oversoul, who is the embodied oversoul. And so I from their blessing, you could almost say, my whole thing was imbued knowledge of the oversoul. And it's important. We are going to need this knowledge as we cross into this stuff, because that is what a higher dimensional reality looks like, is more of humans embodying more of their oversoul. So, and which is just dimensional effects. It's not woo. This is real deal, higher dimensional vibrational content here that actually alters the body, alters the mind, alters our environment. And this is the type of stuff that we're going to need. And so that's so that really spoke to me. And yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's I'm listening to some of the comments, and I have here Kelly. She's like, "Hi, Kelly," and she's like, "I'm just glued to my phone watching this," and I'm like, "You and me both." Like, I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening?" And I find that, and this is why I had you come back on the show, because it seems that, and like you said, you're discovering new things every day about this, but somehow, there's so much to unpack here. Like, oh my God, we're gonna be here all night. But it's just that I knew somehow in my body that you had to come back, because the film has now unpacked different things. And I'm listening to what you're saying about how, when you're talking about being at the contact in the desert, and about how everybody's their children in a sense, and it's not just the contactees, it's everybody. And I think that also ties in, if I may, I'll go and read some comments, but if I may, I feel that, and I think somebody actually made an interesting comment. I think that's sort of what I want to say. I think it's Lynn Glenn 7111. And this person says, governments don't represent humankind. Humankind represents humankind. So it makes sense that people will know somehow from within. And there will be no stopping it if any government even thought so. And I agree with that 1,000%, because I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. Yes, and I've been saying this as well. Like, they don't want to release it because they're still in that hive mind. They're still in that military industrial complex mind of like, oh, okay, we gotta handle this information, and make the weapons, and that's them. And I honestly feel that aspect, and I don't wish harm on anybody, but I just feel that aspect of humanity is dying out. And what we're seeing in the world right now, and with the war and all that kind of stuff, the world as we know it is dying. And I don't know if that relates to, like, you had that vision where you saw the planet, kind of going up in flames and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it is, and we can get into that. But I feel that in terms of representation, this world is dying and this new world is coming. And I honestly believe, and you're more than welcome to disagree with me, but I really believe that there are so many people, and keep in mind that the media is controlled, and the media will try to give the impression that, oh, well, and yes, there are some people who are not going to be ready. But I find that when I went to the theater, I was crying too. I was crying because I felt a level of recall, and I may not be an experiencer such as yourself, but I feel that I cried because, and I was hyperventilating when I ran out of the film, and I ran to the bathroom and I was crying, and I was like, oh my God. It's because at the end, when they have the alien wheeled out in the chair and everything, I thought, oh my God, there's like a family member, a parent, like it's like you have your grandmother, you just, it's an older family member in the chair. And You see, I'm welling up right now, actually. Sorry. Sorry.
Beautiful. No, I think it's beautiful.
It just felt like, oh my God, there's my family member there.
I
And
know. I
everybody that
felt for the alien, the one who was breathing, who they picked him up, and he was sitting there back.
Yeah,
he
and
was
in the
breathing.
chair, yeah.
You feel for that, and the
I feel,
newscaster
yes.
felt for that alien too, and I was feeling it for it. We're all feeling for that alien. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but and I'm feeling it not so much from like, oh, poor him. Yes, that, but also sort of like, that's my family, that's my grandma.
Yes, friend.
That
Yes,
in
I know
the
exactly
chair.
what you're saying. Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
and that's it, and it just really sort of touched me, and I was just sort of like, ah. So there's that, and I have to agree with the comment by Lynn Glenn 7111. I'm speaking for myself. I refuse to believe that the government is going to be able to control this, and I know you said that, and sorry, I need to sort of just get this off my chest. I'm sorry, but it's just that it's not going to be the government. We have been giving away too much of our power, and maybe I'm coming from a more esoteric perspective, but right now what's happening is that people are taking back their power and are saying, "Excuse me, but fuck the government. We are sovereign. We are humans, and we want to connect with our galactic family, and screw everybody else." You understand? So I'm being very emotional about this right now because this is what I really feel. And I feel that everybody who is here tonight gets me, and they get you. And this is not going to be government. And you're right. I don't think the government is going to turn around and say, here you go, and make it rain. I don't think they're going to do that. I think that we are going to be the ones that are going to push the government aside to, excuse me, please, as I walk through, and I'm going to own this. We are all going to own this. So I'm going to shut up now, but that's sort of what I needed to get off my chest. Thank you.
No, and I feel like for the first time ever, that's what Spielberg's movie was addressing, was giving power back to experiencers. Because the first time ever I walked out of that movie feeling empowered.
Yes.
It's really hard being a contactee.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I came in at a period where podcasts like yourself were starting to spring up, and there's more desire to know and understand this stuff. But had I done it 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years earlier, I would have gone through hell. And so I was empowered walking out, and I actually made choices in my life after watching that movie, because I said, I am that's me, and I gotta. He understood what this is all about. Is that the experience? Some of us are imbibed with a mission to help with certain things, and when you follow that mission, the universe kind of coincides, if you will, and lets that path kind of be part of your path. But there is a problem, and I agree with everything. I agree with everything you're saying. I do know people personally who won't listen to me without Neil deGrasse Tyson saying, "Oh, aliens are that and that and that, and they manifest like this way, and they become the orbs, and they turn into dreams, and they can't believe me because it's the alien phenomenon itself is way too far crazy, and so they need a leader to say, that manifests this way, and I still can't wrap my head around how that's going to happen. But because I know people who've witnessed the things I've witnessed, but they say, I don't know what that is. And there's no way you're telling me that's a gray alien. I was like, wait a minute, they don't manifest like that. And they're like, huh? And they're like, what do you mean manifest? And then you're like, they're lost, and they need that leader to address that issue, because they're not experiencers, and they never went down this rabbit hole. And so now there's like a real disconnect. And I feel that disconnect is going to cause a lot of problems, actually. Those are the problems I foresee that are going to be that humans will have to address with the alien phenomenon in our face.
But
I agree with you. I agree with you totally.
Yeah, and I know we agree with each other, and I can almost feel the audience is agreeing with both of us, because there are a lot of people, like I said, who are here tonight who are like, and all that. But you know what though? And maybe this is a bit, I'm not trying to be cruel, but it's kind of like, if people can't wrap their head around it, that's not your problem. That's not, and it's kind of, and let me give an example of much more of a 3D, day-to-day example. Not everybody, there's still a lot of people who still, who are not on social media. There's still a lot of people who are, and I'm not talking about grandma at 80. I'm talking people who are our age or younger, who still don't go on Facebook, and they don't understand YouTube, and they don't understand social media, and they most definitely don't understand AI and all that kind of stuff. That just sort of like whoosh, it goes right over
Yeah.
their head. So there are a lot of people even now being completely exposed and inundated with AI that are like, I don't get it, and they just
Yeah.
sort of turn away and they walk away. So
Yeah.
that's, you're always going to have those people. And, and it doesn't mean that you can't survive. I mean, obviously you can survive, you can go to your day job and all that kind of stuff, but there are a lot of people who are not going to learn AI. And I'm not promoting AI. I'm just saying, as an example, that that's something that's sort of like a new technology that people just don't get, and you're always going to have those people. And so that's what that is. And so you know, I don't know what to say about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
I
totally.
think that at the same time, what you're saying about all the stuff that we need to learn, I feel that there are a lot of people. I am not the only podcaster on YouTube, obviously. There are hundreds of people who are podcasting this exact same information, and they have all their followers. And there's a large block of people that are going to help lead the way with that, and who understand this topic and understand that we have to be the way showers. And
Yeah.
so that's all I can say, like I can't hold ourselves back because they've decided that Neil deGrasse Tyson is the only one who's going to be a leader. You know what I mean? He is,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
opinion, he's a fool, but I mean,
Yeah.
I digress. But sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with all that. You
Yeah.
got it 100%.
Yeah. So I just wanted to sort of go through some of the comments here just to see if we have some interesting comments here. And if people have some questions, put them in the chat. I have here a question from Sophil 1942. What is the pole shift or other magnetic event that's going to take place, if you have any thoughts on that? Did you want to sort of...
Yeah.
No?
So no, I definitely can speak to it. Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So I'm convinced of I've been at this for a while, and they've helped me with I can just blurt it out and say it,
Yeah.
but then it would just sound totally insane. But there is a background of knowledge that I have that has been corroborated by government sources, and Tom DeLonge is an example of that, who we now learned has got his information from General McAllister, who's now missing. So we have and Dan Bursich, and so there's a whole bunch of whistleblowers who had some kind of interesting information that was out over years that now matches a lot of the stuff the aliens have told me directly. So I'm convinced our planet is linked to another planet.
Okay.
And I'm convinced that that is the home of the quote unquote gray aliens. And it's it's in another dimension. So it's not in our universe, but our planet is linked, and I don't understand our history with that linkage. But I'm kind of the belief that, maybe the Younger Dryas, maybe something like that, like 12,000 years ago type thing. The planet itself was in a different dimensional state. So humans who were once hybrids. So by the way, like I've done full like Reddit posts on this stuff. Like the entire population, I'm pretty convinced, is remnants of an ancient hybrid, different hybrid tribes actually, that were spread out throughout the world. And then, so we were in a different dimensional state. We were in a different type of state that maybe had been more fluid. Maybe we were telepathy and all that type of stuff was easier.
Yeah.
And whatever happened, something got reduced, quote unquote, reduced, maybe dimensionally. I don't know if this is tied to the galaxy, tied to the solar system as it moves through the galaxy. I'm not quite clear, but that is coming back. And in the process, it's doing something internal has to happen. And so it's all tied to the electromagnetic field of our planet, and it's tied to the internals of our planet. And in that snapping, in that breaking of something that has to happen to alter the planet back to its almost quote unquote original state. It's like some type of cataclysm. And for me, it's the Great Waves. Okay. So and this is what I've seen, and then I actually have knowledge from that came right from Linda Moulton Howe, that came right from an S4 scientist that there's some type of belief that there's going to be tsunami type activity occurring here.
Large.
Do we know where?
Do we know where this tsunami activity might be? Because I'm also reminded of the work by Paul Laviolette, and I think we've mentioned him up in the past. And Paul Laviolette is he was a seer, and he was a visionary, and he talked about how a lot of the planet would be submerged underwater, and there's certain areas that are going to be safe havens. So we can, if anybody wants to, they can look up that information. But Paul Laviolette talks about that. But in your understanding, do you know where these waves would, let's say, start? Like, is it sort of like Fukushima, where it's like off of Japan and then it, whoosh, goes over?
Yeah.
What part of the world are we talking?
Yeah. So, and all I can do is like, the one thing I don't want to be doing is someone listening to my story and then panicking and packing up all their stuff and moving. Like, I don't like, but
it's good to be prepared though. Why not?
Yeah, it's good to, and also I want to have the information out because, we should be pointing fingers back at the government saying, why do contactees have this type of information? And maybe, your reason for dragging this out is tied to this. Is there any chance by that? And I've also had people say, "Oh, the aliens tell you different things," and da da da. Yeah, but they didn't do what they did with me, and they didn't. And they also there's been no lies so far. I've been at every step. I went public about something. I didn't know anybody else had any other contact like that. I didn't know there was even when, as I said at the beginning, that that they made the human bodies. I didn't have background knowledge reading tons of alien books that said, "Oh yeah, I can be confident about that." I just said it in a presentation based off of the memories and had no knowledge about what other information was out there in this UFO mythology or anything that could match that. And now it turns out I learned, the Francis Cripps, who was the founder of the DNA molecule, actually believed that we were intervened because the DNA molecule makes no sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, this is all intuitively matching. And I just keep talking about it as if it's real until the day I learn anything I was told was not real. And it turned out, the Great Waves are something that some S4 scientist was helping prepare humanity for. And here's the key. It was over 5,000 feet. So figure out how to get above 5,000 feet. That's high. And then number 2 was Bledsoe actually had the same vision that I did. And so his was solar flare related, and I don't know anything about solar flares. I was never shown anything with solar flares. What I'm convinced of is the whole solar system is moving through something like a dimensional field.
Absolutely.
And then, sure, maybe some kind of solar radiation is a part of that. And then this alteration of the planet is a part of that. And that alteration causes these kind of massive cataclysms. And I saw, and it was in my 18th contact event, it's kind of like the northern it's a north of Pacific Ocean. So it's like northern, the North Sea. It's like something in the North Sea buckles, and then all the ocean water coming from the north down the Pacific. So everything across the Pacific. And this is what Bledsoe saw. Bledsoe saw a massive wave overcoming the West Coast, which would be Pacific Ocean. Okay. So that's what I saw. It was this kind of thing happening. But regardless, I don't know, right?
But that's what Paul. But and I find that interesting. You should say that. And again, people can look up Paul Laviolette, and he has a map. He actually created a map, and he talks about how the West would be inundated. Okay. And that I need
to see this.
Definitely check it out. And that actually, you know what? I think if I can just hold on. Okay, so Paul Laviolette. Sorry, guys, just give me a minute. And I'm just going to okay. Laviolette. Okay, and I'm just trying to see if I can find his map, because he does talk about how the Paul Laviolette.
Another interesting connection with that is that this is all tied to an alteration in the internals of the planet, and it's exactly the direction the pole is moving now. So the pole is moving towards Siberia, towards top of Russia, and that's what I saw.
Yeah.
So it's like the North Sea, and it buckles over, and basically I saw all the water from the North Sea buckling into Russia, and and all the water would spread down from this kind of huge displacement. But it's 100%, and I didn't have that knowledge like when I had the memories, and it's just not stuff like you don't like. It's all kind of it's all a picture that's actually adding up or forming, and so.
Yeah, no, but that's what I also saw as well, and so I'm just trying to find it, and if I can find it, I'll put it up. I don't want to waste too much time on this. But,
yeah, no worries. What was it? So was it? How do you spell his last name? That's the most important.
His last name, Paul Laviolette. So it's Paul.
Yeah.
And Laviolette is capital L small a Violette Violette. And he talks about Earth under fire, and it's called Humans Survival of the Ice Age. Okay, he has a couple of books out, but he does have a map. And at one point, I will, if I can find it, I will,
interesting.
I will let people know. But I did see that, and that a large portion of the West Coast would be flooded, and that the Mississippi would really, like, because of all the water coming in, it would come in through the Mississippi, and its banks would be like, over flooded, and blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because I think that some of his work has actually been removed from the internet, which doesn't surprise me, because also people who are trying to control that information. And there's also talk about people building bunkers and all that kind of stuff.
The
so,
bunkers,
and there's a show on now called Paradise, which actually talks about that Paradise, where they sort of built this big bunker under Cheyenne Mountain and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, but the point is that it seems to be that there's also a science that says that the solar system is going through a certain belt, like a certain aspect of the universe. This is science, and all the planets in our solar system are experiencing global changes, and all the planets in our solar system are going through changes because of this portion of space that we're going through. So it's not BS; there's actual science, like you're saying. So there's science,
it's something
to back
like that.
up.
Yeah, it's something like that. That's anyway. Yeah, I agreed. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's not about, but also I'm wondering, as people, we can also choose our different timelines, no? Like, I mean, because if you sort of fall into the mindset of like, oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble, oh my God, then you're going to put yourself on that timeline.
Oh, I mean? Yeah. Visioning. I am a big proponent of visioning. Yeah. And actually the aliens gave me this mystic book and blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is that in it was a line basically like, here's how to vision, and you're going to need this, right? Like at some point, your planet will be in a certain state where you'll need this. And so, sure, you can say an alternate timeline, but it's visioning. And I believe when you're in that hot seat of life or death, visioning is one of the best things you could be doing. Visioning the outcome of the thing you want, and it's not grandiose. Yeah, sure, you can be grandiose and you won't be affected, but if something is on your plate, like knowing about some of this content, and it's coming in that day or that year or that week, vision the outcome, vision what you want. Your family's safe, you're safe, right? You're guided or something like that. Yeah, 100%. You vision that outcome. You think that outcome through. It changes your life. You will, 100%. You can attract the thing you don't want by focusing on it, and you can definitely find your spirit can come through in the vision of the thing you're looking for. Yeah,
absolutely. So I want to sort of get back to some more comments here. I have here Lynn Glenn again, 7111. What did you say about the city in Southern California when you were talking about a city in the Central North American continent? So you're talking about, where is this city, this gleaming city? Where did you see it exactly?
Yeah. It's like there was two cities. So there's a massive city, as if it had the entire global population. I'm not saying that's the case. I don't really know. But it was massive. It was just a big circle, dead center of North America. And then all nature surrounding it except for a tiny city in Southern California. And I don't know. I just don't have the answer to that. I don't know what that means.
Okay.
It was a tiny city in Southern California. And it's just I find it pretty interesting that I've done a YouTube video on this. Look, I've connected some of the pieces here, and Catalina Island off of LA looks like there could be a base there. Why is it that California has the largest, the most sightings? Most typically, the California has the most sightings each month on MUFON, and America has the most sightings every month. So it's just a weird synchronicity, and yeah. And when you go down, like I love Palm Springs, and it feels different, and there is a different vibration there, and it kind of makes sense to me that something likes that environment. And then that's where Holloman Air Force Base is, where apparently the Eisenhower met the aliens, and yada yada. So yeah, the area is very, very interesting when it comes to alien life and the alien interaction with humans. So I don't really have the exact answer why, but yeah, it's very very intriguing.
Okay. And so does that mean that areas, for example, like Mount Shasta and all that have some sort of like, because a lot of people are talking about seeing a lot of aliens and stuff in Mount Shasta. I don't know if in California, if that's sort of, if you have any, something just said to ask that. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, the phenomenon is a a thinner phenomenon. So it's operating on the thinner realms, and yeah, portals. There are these sites. So the electromagnetic field bendings create portals 100%. And I think, there actually is a NASA research paper now on portals, and, they have evidence for portals. So, it's out in space, and they're not the same thing as a human being able to walk through. But, in Skinwalker Ranch, we had scientists witnessing portals who were totally disbelievers and then saw a portal and a thing walk out of the portal. So this stuff is very, very real. And then these thinner environments, the kind of electromagnetic features, right? Volcanoes and yeah, some of these high-end type of environments. For me, that's why. It's when you're a person who's kind of sensitive medium style, or you've had contact and you become sensitive, you can feel it. That there's things coming through in another invisible portal. Yeah, 100%. And then that's what makes these environments hyperactive.
Okay. And just to sort of show the cover of the book, so I'm going to just show it here. It's called Earth Under Fire by Paul Laviolette.
Oh yeah.
And it's Humanity's Survival of the Apocalypse. And I know that there was a documentary that was that I saw, but at the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist, this information I noticed, I used to be able to find the maps and everything, and I noticed that they've removed that information. So there are people that don't want that information out there. But if you could pick up that book, you can check it out and sort of check out what he's talking about, because he does mention that sort of thing. So there was that. And I just wanted to sort of see what other comments we have. It's true. I feel that that line in the film where he says, "Listen," I think a lot of what I noticed is when I went to the theater. Now, first of all, what I noticed is that in the last little while, people have not been going to the theaters. There are times when I've been going to movies and seeing, a movie here and there, a Marvel movie here and there, and you probably have maybe a third of the theater filled. Maybe it's a bit different in the States. Maybe things are different in Europe. I don't know. But here in Canada or Montreal, there's very, very little people. And when I went to see this film, and I expected it was going to be like, okay, many people are not going to like this, but the place was packed, packed.
Wow, that's
and
not my
people were lining
experience.
up, and I was like, what? Okay. So I said, this is really something else. And I remember just before the film, I looked around and I said, let me just, looking around and pack. And people were clapping at the end. And I was like, I was screaming. And so people were really
That's
in
amazing.
it. Maybe it's in a Montreal thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
that's amazing.
Maybe. But I found that whereas a lot of times when I've been to the theater in the last, couple of years since COVID, because COVID took a big toll on the theater going industry, and a lot of people just have not been going to see films. They've been very disappointed. And we've had a lot of films come out in the last year or two, just a whole ream of films, action films, everything. And I go to see them because I like the entertainment. I studied film. And, you see a couple of people, but this was packed house. So that told me something. So people are ready for something, because I can tell you a lot of people are saying, I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing. I'm done with the Matrix. I'm done with the 9 to 5. I'm done with the war. I'm done with this. I'm done with it all.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think that the government has done good enough now to validate UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a bit of a weird game going on here, right? I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people thought Spielberg would tell us
Mm-hmm.
aliens are real, and they thought it would be this push, and it wasn't
Yeah.
really a push.
No, that
It
wasn't
was
what the
a
film's about.
yeah, it's not what the film was about,
No.
and it validated the experiencer. It gave it's very fascinating what it actually ended up being, and
Mm-hmm.
I loved it more than I thought I would actually.
Yeah, me too.
I thought it was gonna be like a pretend documentary or something. I didn't really know
Mm-hmm.
what it would be, and but I agree. So my work is the only thing I can really base that off of, and I can see from the social media, but it's not really it's your personal environment, and I people are really noticing and believing the quote unquote the world is going to shit,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's what they're
Yeah.
feeling. They're seeing it
Mm-hmm.
in the environment. They're seeing it in the kind of all the changes that are occurring. They're seeing it in the corruption.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing it in the kind of larger population. They're feeling like the capitalism, the money, the how economy. Now, is it really going to shit?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, technically, I don't fully think so, but I think
Mm-hmm.
social media has really over inundated
Yeah.
us with kind of negative, negative
But that
facts.
sells,
And
though. That's the thing. You see, that's what
yeah,
sells. So
totally,
that's
yes,
why they're doing that. Anyways.
yeah, and it's capitalism, right?
Yeah.
That's what
There you go.
capitalism will do. It's
There you
going to
go.
sell that story, and yeah, and in the end of the day, I think that people, like I was trying to say to my friend, are you noticing how this is all kind of, dude, are you noticing
Yeah.
aliens are coming out at the exact same time that all this is coming to a head, right? It's like, these, like because I know what's at stake here. I knew the planet was always at stake. This is always how it would be.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be in the middle of chaos that this information would actually come out. So yeah, I think people intuitively kind of feel that. I think that there is a what's interesting too, and it's fascinating to wonder if the government knows this. They probably know this,
Mm-hmm.
that we can take the most insane of this information
Mm-hmm.
when we are in a state of chaos.
Yes.
So they're able to spill out information when we're concerned about our livelihood,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, by the way, aliens are here and people have been abducted and
Yeah.
experiencing, and the Bible is half aliens and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And then you can take that when you're trying to fight for your life, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And yeah, because if you were all comfortable, you might rise up, is the idea. So
Exactly.
yeah, and so I
That
think
might
something
happen,
like
though.
that.
Mind you.
It's yeah. In the end of the day, it's like they're dropping a grenade. Actually,
Yep.
is maybe what might happen. So I do believe intuitively people are looking for
Mm-hmm.
some of these answers. They're trying to figure out what's going on and why is this information coming out. But I want to just like give credit to the people who paved the way,
Mm-hmm.
because some of the scientists are jumping on early,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gary Nolan and I don't know.
Avi
there's
Loeb or something, that kind of thing. I don't know.
yeah, sure. I really love how that what's her, I can't remember her name. She's a scientist. She's a PhD. She was Big Bang Theory. She was on the Big Bang Theory.
Oh,
And
Mayim Bialik, I think.
yeah, she Blossom, remember? Yeah.
Blossom, yeah.
And she got her PhD, and then she went down this avenue.
Yeah.
And so it's just very like there's a bunch of people who staked their credibility, and then never mind the 90s. John Mack, right?
Yeah.
Bud
Absolutely. We could
Hopkins
be
wasn't a
here all
scientist.
night, everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, Jacques Vallée. And these
Yeah.
guys they made it a little bit okay, because now we're at the point where everyone's saying, I guess that was real.
Yeah.
Right. And then, yeah, and now they want answers to that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm seeing is people kind of accepting the kind of larger picture, but they all kind of agree they don't understand it still. And so, yeah, it's all very fascinating. I love it personally. And, but we're going to be in for one hell of a ride.
Absolutely. But we still have a lot more comments coming up, so I'm going to
Sure.
read them up. But you know what, though? It's funny because I know that 10, 15, 20 years ago, if I talked about this, people are like, oh my God, you okay?
Yeah. Oh,
You weirdo,
I got it
you
just
know?
5
And
years
like,
ago. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, I think you're suffering from something.
yeah, like, you all right, But now
Yeah.
everybody talks about it like, yeah. And I mean, I'm sort of thinking like,
Yeah,
oh, I
agreed.
thought I was in this private club and it was
Yeah.
like this sort of exclusive niche thing. And now I'm kind of like, yeah, where have you been? You
Yeah.
coming late to the party? And like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just kind of weird. I have another comment here from Unmasking the Divine. He says, The informal scientific crowd may be among the last to get it. I've had experiences that exist beyond the small container of some people's reality. And that sort of touches upon what we were saying about how, yes, and I think you just said it right now, that the scientists, I think, are going to be the last because they want to hang on. It's a control thing. They want to hang on. And there are a few scientists that, yes, are sort of bucking the trend. But overall, there are some people who unfortunately are going to be, not going to be able to accept that until that the final, what do you think?
Maybe the phenomenon knew what it was doing. Right?
Yeah.
So it's the difference between subjective experience and objective experience, right? So the whole scientific model, right back from Plato, right, was objectivity, right? You can only understand the universe by understanding it objectively, and so that's the basis of like the scientific model, okay? But all spiritual experience is subjective. And the phenomenon did nothing but be subjective. It's why the contactees were thrown out of the picture. So you have like people who studied nuts and bolts become credible, while the people who studied the contactees like
exactly.
be warned
that's woo.
not to go down that road.
Yeah.
And why? Because the aliens were talking in telepathy. Yeah. They were showing holograms. They were putting things in people's minds. They were obscuring memories. And even now, if you're on board with the whole Chris Bledsoe CE5 thing, or calling entities or calling orbs, whatever you want to call it, the entire thing is subjective. Mm-hmm. It is all through subjective experience. And yes, 3-4 years ago, the whole nuts and bolts crowd were still highly rejecting looking at patterns. Didn't want to see the patterns. Didn't want to imagine that volcanoes
they didn't want to know
were together. Didn't want to know.
They didn't want to know.
We were just humans who were just dumb, who were trying to make meaning out of something that the aliens are very clinical about and methodological about, that there was no subjectivity to it. Yeah. And the phenomenon seemed to play it all against that.
Exactly.
Because it made the entire thing subjective. And I do believe the phenomenon knew what it was doing at the same time. So, but yeah, it isolated and Jacques Vallée in his book Dimensions even asked the question, did it do that on purpose?
Yeah.
Because sometimes the phenomenon made it ridiculous. It made what the aliens do so bizarre that the scientist was like, "What? Why would the alien ask you what time it is? That makes no sense, right?" And so you're having the alien itself throw in perplexity that looked to shield it away from society. So and that's kind of seems what happened. And now that subculture thing is now kind of expanding and breaking the mind of the scientist.
Yeah, absolutely. I have an interesting comment here from Kevin Estrella, who has been a guest on the show. Yeah, Kevin. He says, "Hi, it's Kevin Harbordor." He says, "Hi, it's Kevin. The Ponte described," and the Ponte is the group that he's in contact with, and he's come on the show before and talked about them. He says, "The Ponte describe, and so does Ben Davidson's Space Weather News. The planet is going to tilt 90 degrees. The planet bulges 21 miles at the equator when we turn sideways. And the crust molten. So North America will be buried under this. Water displacement, the Ponte say mile-high tsunamis. So as going back to the comment about the tsunamis, but the thing is that we've heard this in many ancient prophecies, and many ancient cultures talk about this time. And at this time now, a lot of them do talk about fire being the one that, changes things, but, there's also water as well. So did you want to comment on that?
Yeah. I mean, all I can do is relay the information I have, right? That's it. Yeah, I know, but it's still very thematic with the whole premise, right? That a planet alteration of some kind, damage to the planet, cataclysm, right? I totally agree with Kevin that something of the like is definitely very possible. That's reminding me of his what he was told is reminding me of the CIA document that talked about this. It talked about the planet tilting itself. The whole planet can tilt and shift. And I've looked into that. It's very fascinating. I was wondering, I didn't know if it was connected to this information, and I'm not I'm not fully clear that it is, or that one, the CIA information that I learned,
Hmm.
and I don't know who Kevin is referring to, the space agency person or the space weather person,
It's
but
Space Weather News. It's a I
space
think
weather
it's a
news. Okay, yeah,
website. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I know, yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah. Well,
sure,
you know,
yeah, I
we'll
don't know,
see. I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
we'll
we'll
see
see,
what
we'll see, yeah,
happens.
we'll see, yeah.
We'll see. But
If
you
we
know
have
what?
internet, we can call each other and say what happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
I know.
But you know what, though? It's funny because I was watching something today and they were talking about, and more scientists are talking about how Antarctica used to be temperate. It used to be a very, very temperate climate,
Right,
and it used to be at the
yes,
equator. And because of the shift that happened around I think a little bit more before the Younger Dryas, it shifted so quickly that everything just got flash frozen. And so they're saying
yeah,
that that's
that's
the
right.
reason why in Antarctica you still find animals that really shouldn't be there in the deep cold that are eating like have like flowers and stuff that's undigested, like, plants and things.
Yeah,
So
there's trees there
that's,
still. Yeah, tree fossils. Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly. So they
yeah,
found tree fossils and all that kind of stuff, and they're saying, "Oh,
yeah,
okay, well that's because there was a pole shift." So
yeah,
that maybe is what's happening, and
yeah,
maybe that's what's happening in Siberia and all that, where the pole is rushing towards Siberia. So there's a lot of science backed. So that's not just some subjective mumbo jumbo.
of
That is
course. Yeah,
definitely
yeah, yeah,
science.
yeah, yeah.
I have an interesting question here from Susie Karasik. Hi, Susie, and she says here, so your elder, and we're going back to what you had on the ship, your elder became a portal. Can you describe this a bit more? I think maybe just
Yeah,
a little bit more about what was happening there.
yeah. What's that all about? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we were orbs. Okay, so we were in some type of dimensional room.
Hmm.
This was not normal space time. So as I actually believe we were frozen, we were outside time in the
Hmm.
contact event. And it's very fascinating to think about it. If you are outside time, doesn't that mean that they're creating time? Because what ends up happening is you're actually outside time, but still having a linear experience outside
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
So you're technically creating time. And so that appears to be what happened, first off. So we're outside time. And then I got turned into an orb. She got turned into an orb. And there was all this hyper dimensional play. Like we were spinning around and running around or, flying around. And yeah. And then,
Hmm.
and then, basically she like so I guess she's an energy form as it is at this point.
Hmm.
So she starts expanding. So after like a moment or after like whatever 5 minutes or I don't even know the passage of time, 5 or 10 minutes of this play, she starts kind of expanding her energy, and it's like this, and it starts bubbling up, and then like there's a band of blue. It's a blue vortex, is what it is. So it's like this blue ring almost, and it's black inside, and she
Hmm.
starts expanding and expanding and expanding up. So it's just wild, and it's spinning this vortex. And so that's what she became. She became this thing. And then she's like, come in. There's this telepathy. And I was like, in this hypnotic state, and I just floated into this thing. And it kind of all turned into this afterlife vision, which was this shared experience I had with my past life and oversoul. And, and I want to, it would be great if I could just say all of that was fake and made up and put in my head. But the problem is I now know that past life, and that past life is real, and I have information about that past life. And the oversoul is something I still connect with, that I saw. So unless they're playing with my head right now, right? And why the hell would they do that all my life? That makes no sense. It was all real. Now I don't doubt it was holograms, but it was holograms of real events, and it was all happened in this other state, other dimensional place that she put me into, or something connected to her. And again, just an example, like I've never heard of that before. And Mark can never imagine something like that. And then I was like on a website somewhere, and someone's gray alien turned into a portal. So it's like, oh my God, this can happen. People can report these weird and very bunker ideas. And yeah, their gray alien was like in their bedroom and then disappeared or turned into an energy, and the alien itself turned into a portal. So it's not like I understand that nor have the physics of that down, but that is something that people can report. And when you talk about it, you sound like you're just bonkers, and then it turns out there's cooperation for these things. So yeah, I hope that was enough description. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry about
No
that.
worries, no worries,
But
no worries.
that's very interesting. A lot of people, you were saying, you mentioned briefly that Steven Spielberg probably knew a lot more than he was letting on. And I feel that, and you can see how you feel, but they could have taken any director.
Yeah,
Anybody could have
yeah,
come out and made a film. It could have been Michael Bay. It could have been,
yeah,
J.J. Abrams. It could have been
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
Even someone like, I don't know, he did the Batman thing there. Anybody could have come and done it, but they chose Spielberg, and I like
Yeah.
Spielberg. I like him very much, and he's always had that sort of like alien aspect to him, and
Yeah.
he has a lot of weight. And there's a part of me that feels that they specifically chose him because he's the guy who can really take people by the hand and lead
Yeah.
them to this understanding in a way that somebody like J.J. Abrams, and no offense to him, I like his work too, and everybody, a lot of directors, but it seems that somehow he's sort of like this gentle father figure, similar to what was happening in the film when you're in the house and then like you see the main character played by Emily Blunt, going through her memories and all that kind of stuff. There's a warm sort of feeling there, and that he's the best one to lead us down this path of discovery of the
Yeah. Yeah.
alien question, but also of learning that there's more to life than
Yeah.
How do you feel about that with Steven Spielberg?
Let's just say a birdie told me
Okay.
that he was explicitly given pictures and videos, yeah, that were of real crashes. Yeah, real.
Oh.
Yeah, he was explicitly given, and this was a lot earlier, like maybe 10 years ago or something. And so this was on his plate, and who gave him that was a mystery to him. But someone did want some of this information out at one point, or at least here's a birdie, think about this, that kind of thing. And yeah, so he was given that information. And then the other half, which is very, very fascinating, is this quote is not meant to poke at anybody, but I can't even think of a single researcher in the UFO field who could have made a movie like that.
Exactly.
He didn't just This is a level of knowing that is shocking to as an experiencer. It was almost cryptid. It was almost like the way it kind of had nuances layered in for only people who've had those type of experiences.
Exactly.
That was very telling. Like when the elk's eye zeroes in on the elk's eye and it becomes the gray alien eye.
Exactly.
My own screen memory was an owl that had highly reflective
Exactly.
black eyes. That was the reflection of the gray alien's eyes.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so how the hell did you know that? How did you know those micro tiny details?
Exactly.
And I don't believe it's because he hung out in some experiencer community, pretending to be a normal person. There is I kind of come back to it, the 1967 John Keel document, which definitely references the experiencer phenomenon. So John Keel got all his information about what he believed the phenomenon was, and he was very concerned, and he sent a letter off to his colleagues. That letter is now basically documented, and it's available on the John Keel Archives website. And yeah, they understood in 1967 the experiencer phenomenon, what it would be all about, and that it would be because the experiencer phenomenon is not what you expect. People think that it would be nanu, take me to your leader, landing on the White House lawn. How about we shake for hands now? What do you have for lunch? This is what I eat for dinner. This is what you do. I watch TV. What do you do? And that's what we thought it would be, right? And the experiencer phenomenon is not what we thought it would be. You can't even imagine that scenario unless you're told it. And so I'm always like, well, how did you get told that unless you're told that by the aliens directly? And so someone somewhere in some book and some document, government classified, such and such, understands the experiencer phenomenon. And then somehow he's able to turn that or translate that into a very highly symbolic movie that would trigger experiencers and give voice and give power to experiencers. So it is it definitely feels like someone knows something has to happen at this time. And even calling it Disclosure Day means you're going to have the general population come expecting it to have been actual some type of disclosure, and it wasn't. It was, but it was a good story about experiencers. It was brilliant in that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was I loved it.
Yeah, there's some people that complained, and there's, oh, I thought it was going to be like Independence Day, and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, no, that's not what it was. But again, we are in the community, so we understand it. But I think there are some people who did have that kind of expectation. I'm sorry, that wasn't it. But so too bad for you. But I think for the most part, they chose him because they knew, and they gave him this information well in advance. Because I know that he said that I think he was trying to be coy a bit when because we did a show on him, and we also did a show a couple of weeks ago with Brent Rains, who was talking about John Keel, because he's published a book about John Keel. So he talked about, so he talked about how John Keel was a bit, concerned, because at that time, I mean, obviously knowing, now what we, knowing then what we know now is very different. So I can see where was a bit different for John Keel, because now if he was still alive, I think he'd have a very different perspective. But so yes, the experiencer experience is much different. But I feel that Steven Spielberg was chosen because yes, he's a good craft. He really builds his craft, and he spent many years making sure that this was going to be a film that could be easily accessible to people. But in many ways, even if it's not landing on a White House lawn, it's very bold to call your film Disclosure Day.
Yeah,
it's very bold
yeah.
in the film towards the end, when you have the main character, the guy, I can't remember his name, but you have the guy and he's putting in all these sort of like flashcards, and they're showing all these videos of Roswell, and they're showing videos of like, meeting at White Sands and all that kind of stuff, and all these, gray aliens running around, and they show Kecksburg and they all that kind of stuff. And they're going through different major UFO stories and they're showing it. And even though technically, yes, there's special effects or CGI in it, but it's almost as if to say this really happened, And so in some ways, I don't expect you to actually grab the files from Hangar 18 and here put it on the camera. I don't expect that. I'm not dumb. Right. Yeah. But at the same time, to now show all those experiences like Kecksburg and Roswell and all that kind of stuff, and to, write the name Roswell, and to show that, and to do it in a way that was so convincing and so in your face, that for me is a disclosure right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other part about Spielberg is, I mean, maybe there are some other movies that kind of emphasize the real phenomenon, but he did a really good job with E.T.
Yes,
because the whole thing with the Nazca mummies is that they kind of look like E.T.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I actually had a friend be like, they're clearly fake because they look like E.T. I'm like, I don't think you understand what Spielberg was doing.
Yeah,
it's the other way around, actually. And then never mind E.T., but Close Encounters of the Third Kind also was an experiencer phenomenon, right? It was the way he interacted with the UFO at the train, and then he gets overwhelmed and he needs to start building. He doesn't know what he's building, and his family's leaving him, and it's because he's overwhelmed as an experiencer, and that's exactly what Emily Blunt's character did, the same style. And I also have it on good word that a real Close Encounters thing happened for the government, that there's a real kind of landing and aliens come out and they address the public. And so he knew that, and we know he worked with J. Allen Hynek. J. Allen Hynek is in the actual credits. So there is like real deal stuff going on with him. So for me, it makes a lot of sense that he was the authentic alien experiencer. He carried that torch, and I agree with that totally.
Yeah. And I heard, and I mean, I don't know, I heard that he was brought to the White House, or that he
Maybe.
went to the White House to show his film and all that, and that he was given access in a way that no other filmmaker was given. So when he made Close Encounters,
brilliant.
and J. Allen Hynek is in the film, and I mean, and the guy played by François Truffaut was supposed to be
Valet, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of interesting. And I heard that he had a lot more access to this information, and that he was told to make this film. Now,
Yeah.
that could be hearsay, but it seems to me that that makes a lot of sense. I think
Yeah.
I have a good BS detector, and I feel that if
Yeah.
that was the case, but it just seems that that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Just to sort of, because we're sort of coming to the top of the hour.
Sure.
So here we are in 2026. We've had you come back on the show, and we're going to definitely have you come back again.
Definitely.
Definitely, for sure. I think people are going to be like, "Bring it back," and I'm like, "I know," but
It's awesome.
compared to when you wrote the book and now with the Disclosure Day, I know we were talking about the film, and you also brought up Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Where do you see us in 6 months? Where do you see things in 6 months? Anything? What are your thoughts? Closing
Yeah.
thoughts?
6 months. So end of the year, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a weird stop and start scenario here, right? It's totally interesting. I don't know that I have a sense of it, but I really definitely believe that 2027 was on purpose. How that happens, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think that, so what did I hear that they're trying to say? So I heard it's come right. This is what they told the pastors, right, to get prepped for, and I've heard this from, again, some credible sources that I have, that they wanted to tell the population that God wasn't real. And so, but that's tied with a very nefarious information, that they were trying to say some other things, that aliens were controlling aspects of our history and stuff. And I don't know. This is my belief that they're trying to figure out a way to frame some of this. But I just think there's so many angles that you could be taking this, and I don't know what the hell is going to happen. But all I know is that we just keep getting more validated, and the more validated we get, the more those people keep. The more people who've had real and authentic contact are the ones who are actually keep being weeded out. Actually, kind of standing up, while the people, some things that were around 5 years ago are not around anymore, and it's because they weren't that real or whatever, right? So I don't want to go there, but
Okay.
so I think that that's a good thing, that the real stuff is kind of being weeded out. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird world right now, and the stop and start element of it is unpredictable, and it's almost like, I get overwhelmed too, actually, when because I believe fully where this is going. Every time there's a big push, I actually get like overwhelmed by knowing about it, by seeing it online, being, oh my God, look what's happening. They're talking about this, or they're releasing those videos, or they're releasing that. And I often take a step back emotionally, and then quickly get back into it. And but yeah, it's I find this very interesting, but I don't know what to say. I'm just gonna say I know for certain it's going to be a wild ride.
Okay.
So and people just need to get prepped. We need to get prepped as experiencers, and listen. It was such a good line. Just listen,
Just listen.
Yeah, and do what you're called to do. But I don't know where it's going, because right now I think there's a lot of unpredictability. It's hard to even know that when Grush did that news conference, like, is that planned? Like, is it planned for them to have a resistance? Was it planned? Was the resistance planned? Like, it's really weird. And we keep having these senators now who become the voice of what's really going on, and they're letting information out anyway. Like Anna Paulina Luna was on Joe Rogan talking about the Book of Ezekiel, like stuff like that. Like that's not official, but it's kind of official. So it ends up being part of the information that we get. It's just really bizarre how it's being handled. And it's kind of because they keep talking about resistance, but they keep putting out information anyway. So yeah, it's kind of a weird back and forth. And it's really hard to understand what the hell's going on. But yeah, but I do think that we will definitely be seeing something really, really soon,
Yeah.
whether people like it or not. So
Exactly. And just to sort of, if I may make a comment on what you just said about like Miss Luna and all that kind of stuff, I get the impression, and I always steer clear of politics on this show, but I feel that what's happening right now in that country with their politics, it's very, very unstable. And so a lot of people are starting to leave the sinking ship, as it were. So, Rome, the Roman Empire in the last days, people just sort of, for themselves type of thing. And I feel that maybe that's what's going on, and that maybe that these are senators that are sort of just breaking ranks and saying, screw it, and putting stuff out. I don't know. I'm just saying that's what it seems to me. I don't know.
They're very clear that a force is killing people.
Yes.
Right. There's some government force or corporate force, yes, or black project force, mm-hmm, is killing people.
Yes.
So they know that for fact, right? Mm-hmm. There was a guy who was killed 2 weeks before he's supposed to get into a skiff. So, and that guy, mm-hmm, had actual experience driving a craft, right, or operating or working with UFOs, right? Mm-hmm. Not picking up a piece of material, but being inside, yeah, and working with it. We haven't had that yet, and that guy gets killed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone is pushing, and I guess I think that, mm-hmm, agitates the senators, obviously, mm-hmm, and so obviously they get out there and they start talking more, but that just becomes part of the speak. It does. I don't see it on CNN. I don't see it on these news stations. Mm-hmm. It just becomes part of the internet speak, and mm-hmm, it's fascinating, but. Whatever the government has done really puts the stuff into the public, news stream, if you will. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. It's just, we shall see how it all unfolds.
Absolutely. Yeah. And last but not least, I'm very much a fan of Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka. Yeah. And Daryl Anka says, just as a closing note, Daryl Anka says that 2027 is the year it becomes like, that's it. They say, I don't know. There's no landing on the White House lawn. No.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, he says, by 2027, and if you've been watching YouTube, you'll sometimes get stuff in your feed. And I've noticed that he's been doing a lot more interviews recently. And he's saying, this is it. Like, bada bing. 2027 is a year when it really, rubber hits the road. And, that's it. It seems that 2027 is going to be, the year. I don't know if you have any last closing comments on that, or.
Yeah, I notice how John Ramirez was not in the Age of Disclosure, mm-hmm, and he's the only one who's been talking about hybrids. Mm-hmm. So John Ramirez is he's the one who started talking about the aliens have DNA that's similar to humans. Mm-hmm. He's the one who started putting that content out there first, mm-hmm, and him and Lou Elizondo are together. I do know they were like someone who's putting this picture out of whistleblowers coming out. Mm-hmm. For them, John Ramirez was combined with Lou Elizondo, mm-hmm, and so he's a weird, shadowy character in all this, and he's the one who said it was a 10-year soft disclosure program, and he said 2017 to 2027, and that is the one that makes the most sense. And sure, I can't speak to any of the channels or anything like that, but I think that is the thing that is making the most sense. And again, because what I know is for the aliens, the planet was always at stake. So that was always a really important element, was to get the information out. And I was agreeing with that years ago now, and it's looking like it's all pretty accurate because we're kind of on the cusp of this information blowing out in a big way. So I believe with 2027 from that angle, but I do agree with it totally.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. We had like a blast. Where did the time go? No pun intended.
Totally. Missing time. Where did it go?
Missing time. What's going on? We have to have you back. I know we're going to have you back. When I'm off, I'm going to ask you to stay behind because we have to make another date and have you back.
I love it, Crystal. Let's do it. I love it.
So please stay with me until we close the show. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I don't have to say it. This was an explosive show. And Jeff Selver is an incredible guy. And really, though, you are absolutely stunning. And you are really making this possible for everybody to understand this. And I really, really feel that you have so much to offer, and you are you're the person who is going to make it accessible for so many people. And your book, and I'm just showing it again for everybody, please pick up his book, The Rising, and the alien plan to build an enlightened city on Earth. Here's the book right here. You see it. It's on Amazon. You can also pick it up on his website as well. So check out his website and support him directly. And like I said, we're going to have him come back on the show, but watch this space, because like, I mean, there's so much going on. And and I'm so happy that we have this show and we are able to bring all of you, one big family. We are all doing this together, and you too, Jeff. You're a part of this.
Awesome.
And
Thank you, Crystal.
you're really a part of the family, and you were one of the first really big guests that I had. And you believed in me when I was just really small and nobody.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. I'm happy I was there, Crystal. So happy.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I'm so grateful and so thankful for everything and for believing in me. And I'm so glad that you're back. And we are going to go, everybody, hand in hand. There's no fear to be had. There's nothing negative in any of this. I think the people who are going to have an issue are the people who are maybe the super religious or the scientists who are not ready to see their paradigm shift. But that's what we're going into. We're going into a very deep paradigm shift and a planetary shift. And I think that we're all feeling it. A lot of people talk about how, 5D Earth and all that kind of stuff. This is where we're headed. So we just need to sort of hang on and stick together and support each other and support truth bringers like Jeff, who are going to help us to understand this information. So, Jeff, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Really, Crystal, you made me cry.
I know, no, but really though, because this is. It's not just, you released a book and there you go. No, this is a planetary thing, and you are a part of a big movement. Yeah. This is, you're really, I don't know if you understand how your book is going to really help people to understand. And, it's that guide that we need. If you pick up the book, and I'm showing it again, if you pick up the book, and you can, and it'll help you to understand, and there's no fear. And this is the guide that you need to move forward, and we're all going to move this forward together. So this is a very, very important time in history, and it's in a very important book. So this is what I feel this is about. So it's not by chance that you are here on the show. It's not by chance that you wrote the book. It's not by chance that you had these experiences, for yourself.
Yeah. Agreed, Crystal. Agreed.
It's a bigger thing. It's bigger than all of us.
It's bigger. It's way bigger than all of us. It's way bigger. 100%.
Yeah.
You got it. Yeah. And I'm just happy to be a part of it all. So
absolutely. Yeah. And you're leading the way. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
so I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here tonight. I don't have to tell you how much this was a blowout. This was incredible. And I'm usually not this sort of charged up, but I just, oh my God. So I want to say thank you to Jeff Selver for being here and talking with us. We're going to have him back again. And like I said, pick up his book. There's his book again, The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. Check out his website. All his information is there. In the comments, so look in the comments below, you will find his book. And we are one.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.
Love it.
So thanks again, everybody. We will see you next week. And we'll be having Preston Dennett, who's actually going to be talking about an interesting topic that we don't usually talk about UFOs in the schoolyard, and young people that are being exposed to UFOs, and young children, and we've heard about the ones that experience in Australia, and also I think in
Westall,
Kenya,
Westall.
and all that kind of Westfall and all that. So, definitely check that out. But again, thank you, Jeff, for being a part of our show. We'll have you back very, very soon. And thank you again, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. A lot of information there. And check out our website. And also check out Jeff's website, because I'm sure he has a lot of information there for you that you can find very interesting. And thank you for being with us here tonight, everybody. We look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.